There's
Christopher,
a number, right?
I got to ask you, how do you feel about this new facial hair situation with the Yankees?
Well, whatever's going to make them a little better. Devin Williams, and good to have be on again, guys. Good. Devin Williams, of course, says he would not have signed if they didn't fix that, make that change. I don't have a major problem with it. Obviously, that's a George thing from a long time ago. It's a lot to do about nothing. Join the times. Hal lost Soto. We can't lose any more players based on a freaking mustache or a collared hair. So from that standpoint, probably the right move for the Yankees to do. Join the 21st century.
No kidding. Let me ask you this, Christopher, and thanks again for joining us because, I love having you on whenever I'm in the chair. We got a Yankees fan here. We got a Red Sox fan here and a Mets fan here. Who's going to have the best year of all?
Well, the best year, you're talking about regular season or if you're going along. The problem the Mets have is that they are in a league where the Dodgers are playing. And so the NL is so much harder than the American League with the Dodgers, the Phillies, the Braves, San Diego, Arizona's pretty good. While in the American League, there's not nearly as many good teams. Houston's not going to be as good. Seattle didn't add anybody. AL Central's bad. So the Yankees, from a standpoint of a path to the World Series, they have the easiest path. But who wants to root for the Yankees? So I will say the Red Sox, they get Bregman. He's going to help their offense. They got Crochet. He's a big left-handed starter. He give their starting rotation, he anchored that rotation. Maybe Buehler has returned to form. Giolito will come back. I think the Red Sox, Story will stay healthy. I think they would be the funnest team to follow, the team with the least amount of expectations in a shaky league. So from all that, when you consider, now they're not going to win a World Series, and the Mets could, Yankees could, but from a standpoint of having a fun season, I think the Red Sox would be the team I'd root for.
Oh, Chris, he already says you're not going to win a World Series. How do you feel over there?
Oh, we have a better chance than the other two, easily. Come on, Chris. We had the sneakiest, best offseason in Major League Baseball. Got the top left-handed pitcher via trade. We bring in the clubhouse guy, a known winner like Alex Bregman, and we have the 3 of the top 10 young prospects that can be called up at any time. Figure out the Devers mess at third base. Shouldn't be an issue, but maybe work out, get his feelings, let his feelings not be hurt anymore, and then let's move on. A lot of offense in that in Boston this year. And we know those guys perform in the playoffs. Judge can't play in the postseason.
Yeah, that's fair. He hasn't, but he's not been great, and they're going to miss Soto in those kind of games. But the American League is so bad.
Mm-hmm.
Think about it. The American League Central never beats the Yankees. Houston is a shell of what they used to be. They lost Tucker. They lost Bregman. So that's not going to be the same team. Nobody thinks the Angels, Seattle, Oakland, Sacramento. So, I don't know where you're going for another good team. Tampa's playing 47 of their first 69 games at Steinbrenner Field. The Orioles did absolutely nothing and lost Corbin Burns and their right fielder. There's just not a lot of teams in the American League. So that, as you said, that will help the Red Sox. Their rotation with Crochet. Bregman will help their offense. We'll see how this whole thing with Devers works out at third base, because they seem like they got a very good young prospect at second. So the ideal thing would put Devers as a DH, Bregman at third, and then the young kid at second base. I don't know if they want to do that to Devers, sort of put him as a DH this soon in his career. But the Red Sox have a chance to be pretty good. Now, I don't know if they're going to win a World Series, but they got a chance to be pretty good. No question.
They're already printing a Dodgers World Series championship banner out here. Christopher, NFLPA team report card. Jets, the only team to get an F in ownership. Your thoughts on that?
There probably should be a couple of others, an F in ownership. Has Jerry Jones done anything that's significant? Geez. I love Arthur Blank, but, he didn't hire Belichick, brought Raheem Morris in there. That's not the answer. I don't know. I think there's probably more than one, but Woody Johnson has been the owner of this team off and on. The Johnson family, he did go the 4 years as the ambassador to Great Britain, but for the most part, they got the longest playoff drought. This is a bad team. They don't have I think they got a good coach, but who knows about the GM? Probably not a great team. They don't have a quarterback. He's run a lot of people off. His decision to fire Saleh after 5 games was not the right one, as it turned out. Yeah, I have no problem with that. He's got to be considered the worst owner in football. I'd have to think there's probably a couple of more. I hate to put Atlanta in that spot, but, they haven't done anything in a long time. The Saints ownership situation isn't great. You'd have to consider that. I mean, they spent all that money on Carr. Dennis Allen, they haven't, and let's be honest, Jerry Jones, now they've been competitive and they've had some good years, but, that team is, their coaching situation is always spotty. Brian Schottenheimer, really? They had some chances to make a run at Belichick. They didn't get them. I'd be a little worried about the Cowboys, too. They're not as desperate as the Jets are, but the Cowboys aren't great.
No, but at least they're being selectively aggressive. I mean, what the hell does that even mean?
That's a good point. Who the hell knows? I mean, last year, they let, again, everybody screamed and yelled about Derrick Henry. I like what Parsons said in his podcast. Even if they had Derrick Henry, they probably still wouldn't have won, and he's right. But yeah, they got some problems. It's not a good team. They're not a great defensive team. They got some good defensive players, but they're not a great defensive team. Even in the postseason, they're not great. And Prescott's pretty good. He's not great. They only got the one receiver. They don't really have a running back. Zach Martin quits. They got problems, Dallas, and I don't like the coach. So if you put all of that together, Dallas is a mess too. The Giants' coaching situation isn't great right now either. I mean, I know they've won 4 Super Bowls, so you can't put John Mara in the Woody Johnson phrase, but, I mean, he hired Pat Shurmur. He hired Joe Judge. Dable's had 2 bad years after the opening good one. He's had some GMs. The Giants, no quarterback. The Giants aren't exactly thriving. So I put the Giants, Suzy, in that category. Not as bad as Woody, but I put him in that category too.
Yeah, and you got to wonder what they're going to think they're going to do at the draft too. Because, I mean, they need so much help in so many places. It would make sense to try to get Abdul Carter no matter what. Because they have so many holes to plug.
Well, they got to get a quarterback. I mean, it sounds like they want to take the Penn State kid. Maybe they will take him with that 3rd pick, but they have to get a quarterback. There's not a quarterback there on campus that they can rely on. I don't think they're getting – I don't know if they love Sanders and or Cam Ward. Stafford's $50 million, plus you got to make a trade with the Rams to get him. They're not bringing Rodgers in. Donald's not coming back to New York. I guess they could try Kirk Cousins, but, I don't know if they really are in love with that either. A mess with the Giants at the game's most important position. You're 100%. And the Jets, too. Both of them. You're 100% right.
I'm watching the clock for you, so let me ask you quickly before we lose you. Tush Push, pro or against?
Oh, I'm against it. And I think the competition committee is against it, too, but I want to make sure before they bring it to the owners, they have the 24 votes. It's a non-athletic play. It's a rugby play. It's not an execution play. You can't tell me in the Ford dealership in Canton, Ohio in 1920, they envisioned this kind of play where you push people behind the line of scrimmage to get a first down. I don't like it at all. It's nothing against the Eagles. They've perfected it. But Washington made a joke of it in the championship game, jumping off sides all those times, trying to time the hit right. I don't like the play. I really don't. I like to see him get rid of it. I know Goodell, I've heard, doesn't like it either. We'll have to wait and see. They got to get the votes. You got to get 24 votes, and obviously Philadelphia is going to vote for it. So you got to get out of the 31 votes, you got to get 24 owners to go along with it. We shall see. But I hate the play, Suzy. I hate the play.
Last question: in all of sports, what would you ban? Like, it could be a play in anything. I don't care if it's hockey. I don't care if it's baseball. You're now the commissioner of all sports, Christopher Russo. What do you ban?
In each individual sport or overall?
And just one. You give me one. Every sport, you get to pick one. So
fantasy.
Like one thing.
Fantasy. I hate the fantasy angle. Players rooting for people rooting for players instead of rooting for teams. The fans who bet money getting annoyed that their running back they selected that week didn't get his 46 yards rushing, and he got 43, and so he texts him after the game. Or he puts on his Instagram. He kills the player. I think the fantasy, and that's not where I grew up from as far as following sports. That's not, it's always about the team instead of the player. I hate the fantasy. And I'd also, in every sport, I'd shorten a regular season. I think it's the second thing I would consider. The NBA regular season is unbelievably way too long. So is the NHL. Football, they're going to add more games. I like to take them less. 16 is perfect. We don't need 18. We're going to have that down the road. And baseball's got 162 games. I think we can live with 154. So I think, and the seasons just never end. So I think the length of each regular season is too long, and I don't like the fantasy. Those two things, Suze.
I just wish you had an opinion. I just wish you'd come on here and say something.
I always have an opinion.
God.
Always have an opinion.
Chris, thank you as always for your time. Love that you always say yes when I ask you to come on. I appreciate it greatly.
You got it. Keep it up.
Catch the Rich Eisen Show live weekdays from 12 to 3 p.m. Eastern on Roku Sports Channel in the U.S. Search Rich Eisen Show on your Roku device for daily replays.